Today is February 7th. Welcome to Big Book Daily. My name is Rob. I am an alcoholic. It is a thrill, honor, and joy to be here with you today as we journey through the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions. Today out of the Big Book, we are on There's a Solution, page 27. Out of the 12 and 12, we're finally back to that today. We're on step 4. We'll be reading the first part of page 49. And of course, we'll read the 24 hours a day and daily reflection. So with that, hope y'all are doing well this morning, my friends. I think it was yesterday. It was either yesterday or the day before where I was bragging on my beautiful Philadelphia Flyers coffee mug. Well, sure enough, I will never do that again because I put it in the microwave yesterday and it's a microwavable mug. I don't know what happened. And of course, put some instant coffee in there, and sure enough, there's a big old crack in it. And it still holds coffee, but unfortunately now it's just a decoration on my desk here in the garage. I'm looking at it right now with tears in my eyes. But with that, let's go ahead and get to the good stuff. Alright, my friends, so if you recall from yesterday's reading, we learned about this man who is free. And I love the way this chapter is organized because it says, of course, the chapter is called There's a Solution. That's what this book is all about, the solution to our problem. And it previews how good life can be. And in yesterday's example, it says, this man still lives and is a free man. He does not need a bodyguard, nor is he confined. He can go anywhere on this earth where other free men may go without disaster. And then here's the caveat. Provided he remains willing to maintain a certain simple attitude. So we're going to build on that idea on page 27. Some of our alcoholic readers may think they can do without spiritual help. Let us tell you the rest of the conversation our friend had with his doctor. The doctor said, "You have the mind of a chronic alcoholic. I've never seen one single case recover where that state of mind existed to the extent that it does in you." Our friend had felt as though the gates of hell had closed on him with a clang. He said to the doctor, "Is there no exception?" "Yes," replied the doctor, "there is. Exceptions to cases such as yours have been occurring since early times. Here and there, once in a while, alcoholics have had what are called vital spiritual experiences. To me, these occurrences are phenomena. They appear to be in the nature of huge emotional displacements and rearrangements. Ideas, emotions, and attitudes which were once the guiding forces of the lives of these men are suddenly cast to one side, and a completely new set of conceptions and motives begin to dominate them. In fact, I've been trying to produce such emotional rearrangement within you. With many individuals, the methods which I employed are successful, but I've never been successful with an alcoholic of your description." Upon hearing this, our friend was somewhat relieved, for he reflected that, after all, he was a good church member. This hope, however, was destroyed by the doctors telling him that while his religious convictions were very good, in his case, they did not spell the necessary vital spiritual experience. Out of the 12 and 12, we're on step 4. Made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Page 49, first paragraph. All these failings generate fear, a soul sickness in its own right. Then fear in turn generates more character defects. Unreasonable fear that our instincts will not be satisfied drives us to covet the possessions of others, to lust for sex and power, to become angry when our instinctive demands are threatened, to be envious when the ambitions of others seem to be realized while ours are not. We eat, drink, and grab more of everything that we need, fearing we shall never have enough. And with genuine alarm at the prospect of work, we stay lazy. We loaf and procrastinate, or at best work grudgingly and under half steam. These fears are the termites that ceaselessly devour the foundations of whatever sort of life we try to build. "24 hours a day, February 7th. AA thought for the day. A nightclub crowded with men and women, all dressed up in evening clothes. Looks like a very festive place. But you should see the restrooms of that nightclub the next morning. What a mess. People have been sick all over the place, and does it smell? The glamour of the night before is all gone, and only the stink of the morning after is left. In AA, we learn to take a long view of drinking instead of a short view. We learn to think less about the pleasure of the moment and more about the consequences. Has the night before become less important to me and the morning after more important? Meditation for the day. Only a few more steps and then God's power shall be seen and known in my life. I am now walking in darkness, surrounded by the limitations of space and time. But even in this darkness, I can have faith and be a light to guide feet that are afraid. I believe that God's power will break through the darkness, and my prayers will pierce even to the ears of God Himself. But only a cry from the heart, a trusting cry, ever pierces that darkness and reaches to the divine ear of God. Prayer for the day. I pray that the divine power of God will help my human weakness. I pray that my prayer may reach through the darkness to the ear of God. Daily Reflection, February 7th. A path to faith. True humility and an open mind can lead us to faith. And every AA meeting is an assurance that God will restore us to sanity if we rightly relate ourselves to Him. 12 Steps and 12 Traditions, page 33. My last drunk had landed me in the hospital, totally broken. It was then that I was able to see my past float in front of me. I realized that, through drinking, I had lived every nightmare I had ever had. My own self-will and obsession to drink had driven me into a dark pit of hallucinations, blackouts, and despair. Finally beaten, I asked for God's help. His presence told me to believe. My obsession for alcohol was taken away, and my paranoia has since been lifted. I am no longer afraid. I know my life is healthy and sane. All right, my friends, that concludes today's reading and some great stuff. Man, as always, I love on page 27 of There's a Solution. There's a conversation here with our fellow alcoholic and the doctor. And the doctor, he's saying, hey, look, I've seen people become sober. And he says, here and there, once in a while, alcoholics have had what are called vital spiritual experiences. A little bit later on, huge emotional displacements and rearrangements. A little bit later on, rearrangements. And one thing that stands out to me here is the word change. Changing things up. Instead of doing the same old thing, hoping I can just willpower my way through it, it always led me to another drink. And don't get me wrong, I'd pray these prayers. You know, God, I don't want to drink today. But I didn't do anything to change the behavior for the longest time until finally, I was so desperate, I was willing to do anything. Even if it was completely uncomfortable, like going to AA or another fellowship or whatever it might be. And asking for help, that was unthinkable, right? But I knew by isolating myself the way I had for so long, that wasn't working. Coming up with these really firm resolutions in the morning, and then an hour later talking myself into a drink, obviously that wasn't working, so I had to do something different. And I love that in the appendix, it talks about this spiritual experience versus spiritual awakening. And maybe we'll read that tomorrow as a bonus, but to sum it up, spiritual experience, I've heard many people in the rooms talk about having spiritual experiences. Maybe saying that they were in jail and said a prayer that God would remove their obsession to drink, and they've never had a desire or craving to drink again. I've heard many stories like that. I would put that more in a spiritual experience category. Whereas a spiritual awakening, which has been more of my situation, it's been a gradual change. Because I'm a slow learner and it just took me time. Repeated reps of going to the meetings, working the steps, rinse and repeat over and over and over again until finally, before I even realized it, I was starting to live through some of the promises, the 9-step promises. But for me, it was definitely more of a spiritual awakening, a process, and continues to be a spiritual awakening for me. But it is so worth it. It is so worth it. And then finally, the 12 and 12 and the daily reflection, we're talking about fear. Oh, how many times did I operate out of fear? One of the biggest ones, fear of not being good enough. Fear of not being a strong enough man, good enough father, good enough husband, good enough professional, good enough friend, brother, That was a big one. And fear would drive me to do some pretty horrible things because I didn't know who I was. And I heard this quote from a famous movie real quick. I'll share it. It's from a movie that I absolutely love called The Family Man. But there's a conversation between two friends, and one of the friends is thinking about cheating on his wife. And the other friend says, dude, don't ruin the best thing in your life just because you're a little uncertain about who you are. And I just think that's just a beautiful way to put it, right? And for me doing these steps, I've slowly but surely, through a spiritual awakening, have discovered who I am or who I could possibly be. And that fear and that insecurity and that feeling of not being good enough, over time, and I'm telling you, it's been a slow, gradual process, but over time, it's starting to melt away. And I just thought sobriety was just not drinking. That's enough of my rambling for one day, guys. I hope you have a great one today. If you are sober, I think you know what I'm talking about, and you're a miracle. And if you're not sober, you are a miracle as well. And you have worth, and you're worthy of recovery. And I pray that you would get the help that you need today to make that rearrangement today, or displacement, whatever page 27 calls it. Basically, to make that step toward change today. And you don't have to do it alone. But the first word in the steps is we. So with that, if we are given another set of 24 hours, my friends, I sincerely look forward to seeing you right back here tomorrow.